Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to talk about recommendation letters. Whether you're applying to colleges or graduate school, recommendation letter is an important part of that process. So today I'm going to cover a few things. One, are recommendation letters important? Just how important they are in the process. Two, I'll talk about 3 tips to keep in mind so that you actually get good recommendation letters from the people you ask for. These tips are important. And then last but not least, as a bonus, at the end of this video, I'm going to read you parts from a recommendation letter that actually got somebody into some of the top institutions in the United States. So here we go. Let's get into it. Number one, how important are recommendation letters? Before I get started, I want to tell you what are the qualifications of me giving you advice with recommendation letters. I got into many colleges, many graduate schools. Not only have I been successful in the process, I've gotten many people into great colleges and graduate schools. I've even read and wrote recommendation letters up the woozah. I've read many recommendation letters in my lifetime, and so I'm qualified. In any case, so we continue. Recommendation letters are important, yet not that important. Some people think that they're irrelevant because it doesn't actually get you in. It's not a slam dunk. People say the SAT scores or ACT scores and test scores are more important. Some say GPA, the grade point average, your report card is more important.
So what is it?
How important is a recommendation letter? The recommendation letter, guys, won't maybe be the shoe-in slam dunk thing that gets you into college or graduate school. However, it can keep you out. So they are important. If you submit a bad recommendation letter, that shows poor judgment on your part because you have 100% control over who you ask to write your recommendation letter. So if you ask a recommendation letter writer to write your recommendation and this person really trashes you and talks negatively about you, that shows poor judgment on your part and the admissions committee will not accept you. So it can actually bar you from the school. So for this reason, admissions letters, recommendation letters for admissions is important. Now, can recommendation letters actually get you in? Can they actually help you? And my answer to that is a yes. Most recommendation letters out there are very neutral and bland and pretty useless. They are actually maybe half a page?
Yeah, baby, yeah!
Today, I'm going to actually give you tips on how to get recommendation letters that are actually 2-3 pages long, right? Recommendation letters that actually move the admissions office to tears sometimes. All right, so let's get started. Here are 3 tips and 3 things to keep in mind to get the best recommendation letter. Ask the right people, ask early, and equip them correctly. So let me just dig into this a little bit. Ask the right people. If you want to ask recommendation letters to the right people aren't necessarily the most popular and famous people around you. I've had a student who comes up to me and says, "Hey, David, I can get a letter of recommendation from the President of the United States of America."
And it's really working. Sign up now.
You hear that and people think that is an awesome recommendation letter. If you get a letter from the President of the United States of America, that will get you in every single school, right? Wrong. That is not true. That is furthest from the truth. Most people, when they get a letter of recommendation from the president, unless the president actually knows you so well, like the president is your father or your uncle well, okay? Not that they're actually your father or uncle, but you get my point. Unless the president knows you so well that he or she can write you a letter of recommendation that's 2-3 pages long, it doesn't matter what position or what reputation these people have. If the letter of recommendation is just going to be a 2-liner or a half a paragraph or even a 1-pager, often that's just bland in content, then that is a bad recommender. Who's better? When you pick the right person, this person knows you. They are willing to go out that for you. They are willing to spend the time to craft a recommendation letter that speaks from the heart. So you want to ask your favorite English teacher, your favorite science teacher. You want to ask your favorite professor, someone who can speak to your academic success. Now, most colleges and graduate school programs require recommendation letters from someone who has an academic relationship with you. Yes, you can get some recommendation letters from your employers and some of the people like close to you that are outside the academic setting. But by and large, most at least require 2, maybe 3 academic recommendation letters. So you need to get it from someone who was your educator, someone who taught you. And these people need to have a relationship with you. Now, if you don't have a good relationship with any teacher or any professor that comes to mind, then you need to get hustling. You need to actually start going to office hours after class, go to their classroom and start talking to them about the process of recommendation letter. And it's okay if you're an introvert and you're shy and you don't have the best of relations with these teachers. The fact of the matter is the teachers and professors probably have a good impression of you. Oftentimes we think and interpret a relationship unilaterally from our perspective only. But what professors and teachers think of you might be drastically different. You never know unless you go and talk to them. So I highly encourage you, if you want to ask the right person you have in mind, first and foremost, go and make sure that you have the relationship if you don't. And if you establish this relationship, we go on to the point number two, ask early. Give this person at least 3 months, okay? At the very least 3 months. Sometimes you should actually ask at the beginning of the school year and give them a heads up. Tell them, Mr. Green, I'm going to be applying to college or grad school so and so. May I get your recommendation letter? I'm going to ask you for your recommendation letter. Or is it okay if I ask you for a recommendation letter? And oftentimes, Mr. Green will come back and say, well, of course, happy to. Very few professors and teachers reject students' advances about recommendation letters. Now, if you ask early, they won't reject you. The likelihood of rejection is very low. If you only give them 2 to 3 weeks to write this recommendation letter, well, then they will likely reject you. So ask early, okay? Earlier, the better. That leads us to point number three. Tip number three is equip them correctly. The thing is, you could pick the right people, and then you might be surprised if they don't write you a good recommendation letter. Oftentimes, even if they write it for you, you won't be able to see it because you're going to waive your right to read these recommendation letters. However, it's kind of stunning to me sometimes how students just think that they're done once they pick the right teacher or professor, and once they ask them to write a recommendation letter, they think that's it. Their job is done. But your job is far from done. I tell students that they should actually provide as much information to this teacher and professor so that they can write good things about you. The thing is, professors and teachers deal with many, many, many students. You're not the only one. Again, don't think about this from a unilateral perspective, just from your view. If they are dealing with hundreds of students, then the likelihood is that they don't remember all the little details that you remember about their class and their relationship with you. So it behooves you to actually give them what I call a summary sheet. I'll share some of that with you. In fact, if you have more questions about this summary sheet, please comment or contact me. I will share with you some templates that you can use for this. So a summary sheet of recommendation letter is very important too. If you have a personal statement or an essay that's ready that you were going to submit or a draft of it, it's a good idea to share that with your recommender as well, because that actually gets them to know you better and gives a little different perspective of you, another cut of you, which will help them write something better about you. Last but not least, if you have a resume, I highly recommend that you share that with them too. Again, it's about giving them a 360-degree perspective about you so that they can write more fully and more sincerely about you. Equipping them correctly also entails you going to visit them and spending some time with them. If you're a college student applying to graduate school, this means, hey, coffee time, tea time, maybe take them out to a meal. If you're in high school and you're applying to colleges, this might mean going to their classroom after school and having a little brief chat with them about things, right? If the person you're asking is a teacher who has an advisory role in some of your clubs, or you have a more personal relationship with them, then don't change anything. Just take that relationship to where it normally goes, whether it be the sports field or in the classroom or these club activities, and take a moment, take 5 to 10 minutes to actually sit and talk about the contents of your recommendation letter and tell them, hey, I would highly appreciate it if you talk about XYZ, because this would help me get into school ABC, right? Or university ABC. If you're a college student, that should pretty come natural to you. You are allowed to ask your professors to put certain details and facts into the recommendation letter. Now, when you do that, be tactful, right? Be diplomatic. You're not supposed to insist, be polite. Oftentimes, a good way to frame this is to say Professor XYZ or Mr. Green if they're a high school teacher. I would really appreciate if you would mention the fact that I was a captain of my water polo team, and that shows leadership and how that translated from not only the pool where I was doing sports, but into the classroom in these ways. Mentioning my leadership would be very, very helpful in trying to gain admissions to University ABC. You get my point. That's just an example I'm giving you. You want to be polite, you want to be diplomatic, you want to be tactful. I hope that was helpful. Now, as a bonus, at the end of this video, I told you that I would read you a bit from a recommendation letter that got a student into virtually every single student he applied to. Now, for the student's sake, I'm going to redact the name. Let's just say that this student's name is Tommy. Okay, Tommy. Okay, I'm not going to read the entire recommendation letter. I'm just going to skim it and give you little highlights here and there. Here it goes. So it's to whom it may concern. It is with utmost enthusiasm and joy that I write this recommendation letter for Tommy. Well, I'm asked to write a few of every year. Okay, well, I'm asked to write a few every year. So you hear me, recommendation letter. Rarely am I the first to insist and initiate on writing one for a student. But that's exactly what happened with Tommy. I asked him if I may write a recommendation letter. See, already it's a strong beginning, right? My hope is that you will read through this entire letter. By the time you finish, if I've done my job well, you'll feel the way I feel about Tommy, excited and enthusiastic. In my 20 years of working with students of all backgrounds and various age groups, I have never met a young soul like Tommy. He has so much integrity, drive, and dedication to make the world a better place, not just for him, but his generation and beyond, and all of humanity. All right, so then I go on to say, my name's David. I'm a venture capitalist. Prior to this, I worked as an English teacher, college lecturer, entrepreneur, and I talk about how I met Tommy. I met Tommy in my capacity as a teacher and coach for a summer program. And I talk about what he did, and I go into detail about how he impressed me, and I get into extreme detail in this letter, actually. And the letter goes on to about 3 pages long, and that's important, actually. Sometimes quantity speaks and makes an impression. These recommendation letters, oftentimes that get to the admissions offices, are very short, half a page, or maybe at most 1 page long. So when an occasion 3-4 page recommendation letters come across their desk, their eyes widen and it captures their attention. Now, mind you, it just can't be some crappy neutral recommendation letter. It has to have depth. So this recommendation letter that I wrote for Tommy was 3 pages long. I was so moved by Tommy's display of empathy and leadership that I nominated him to be president for an inaugural chapter of a club. I go on to say, teaching students like Tommy inspires me to believe in our collective future. I eagerly want Tommy to receive the best of the best college training and education. He's the type of future leader that will never put any opportunity to waste, and he won't do it for himself. He will, as he always does, put people first. We need more future leaders like Tommy. I also talk about the academic elements of Tommy because, I was teaching him in some capacity. In any case, I hope that was helpful, guys. You want recommendation letters that touch on the personal, that speak to details, and that clearly shows that this person writing the recommendation letter is eager, is happy, is enthusiastic to write it about you. Now, if you can't find somebody that's about to write the recommendation letter like that for you, then you have some homework to do. You have some hustling to do. You want to spend some time with this person, then make sure they get to know you. Again, I gave you some tips on that. If you have further questions on this and it wasn't clear throughout this video of how to do this, please comment and let me know. I'm happy to provide you more. This may be the first of a 3-part series for admissions tips and how to maximize and optimize your chances of getting into the best program possible. I hope this was helpful. Again, comment, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. You have a good one. Bye.